You're listening to the Quoted Podcast Season 14 with 10 episodes, 10 guests, and 10 quotes. So let's get into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Quoted Podcast. This week I'm talking with my friend Quinn again. If you remember, she was on the Easter episode from last year, which was also the longest podcast ever, so you should go back and listen to that one. Otherwise, I'm excited to talk to Quinn and ask her some questions. So welcome back.
Welcome. Yes, I do know I like to talk a lot, so that's probably why it's the longest one. But you guys should give it a listen.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, first question I have for you today, which goes along with the quote that we'll talk about later, is do you have any tips to give on being productive and getting stuff done?
Yes, when I was reading this question, I love lists. I do lists for everything. I do lists for homework. I do lists to clean, what I need to do. And so that's really like one thing that makes me be productive. And I kind of plan out my week too. Especially when I was at college, I was like, okay, if I have like this homework due on Friday, like let me not wait till Friday and like kind of put it all in like retrospect, because it was like in schooling there was like a lot of assignments like here, there, and like everywhere, and so just like keeping that in like check. So that's how I stay productive. And then I also don't lay down. Like usually like I want to lay in my bed and then get up and do it, but I was like, I kind of got a routine of like, no, let me do what I don't want to do first, so then I can like reward myself and sweet little treats. That's also how I did a lot of my homework. I was like, I'm gonna get some coffee.
Oh yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I was also gonna say to-do lists are like the best way to keep you productive, and I also feel like I forget everything. I have so much stuff in my head when I have so much stuff to do, and so it's easier to write it all down, and it keeps me organized, and so then I can actually get it done better.
Yeah.
And getting coffee or something after, it's the best thing.
I write it in my notes app, because it's like if I write it down, I don't remember where I put it, but I usually always have my phone with me, and so it's just like if it's in my notes app, and then it's also like connected to my computer, so that I can pull it up on my computer, and I'm like, oh, it just works out perfectly for me.
And reminders are really nice too.
Yeah.
How do you balance your faith with your daily responsibilities and obligations?
For me, like to balance, I kind of had to get out of the routine. I was okay, I don't just have to read my Bible in the morning. I can read it whenever in the day. Like there's no specific rule. So it's like to balance, I was like, well, some days like I wasn't able to like get up and like read my Bible. I slept in a little late, so then I was like, okay, I can just read it later. And so I kind of was just, no matter what time of day, like I can still give him time. It was also like in everything you do, you're also supposed to be giving him glory. So kind of like there shouldn't be so like no separation between like what you're doing in the day and him. Like it should be intertwined.
Yeah. And last year when I was reading the whole Bible, I had like a set thing where I would go every night before bed. I would read the chapter I was supposed to read. Well, this year I tried to do like a verse a day, and then I just started getting really lazy with it, and I just really got behind. And so, do you have any advice for picking the Bible back up, or like any books that I should go back and read again? Because I feel like I want to get back into it.
Yeah. I am definitely one that it's like there's times in my life where I'm like really like strong in my word, I'm doing it, and there's times where it's just like, to me, it kind of gets in a routine and where I'm just like, okay, like I led a Bible study this past semester and it was amazing. I loved it, but then I felt myself just going to the word to prepare for the Bible study. So it was like trying to like take that intentional time to do it. So usually like if I'm trying to like get back in, I go to New Testament, because like the Old Testament's great. Old Testament has a place, but it's really hard to get back into it.
Yeah.
And so it's like taking the New Testament, one of the shorter ones, like we just went through Philippians. I suggest Philippians to anybody. So good. Paul, amazing. Taking that time and just giving yourself grace too was a big thing for me, because it's like, yes, there's going to be days that you're not going to get to it, or you just like, but it's no way to like beat yourself up, because if you beat yourself up about it, then you're not going to want to do it the next day. I don't know. There's a line between it. It's like, yes, be cautious not to just like keep falling into it, but also like if you miss a day, it's not going to be the end of the world. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, because the Old Testament is hard to get through. So I'm probably gonna have to go and start back at the New Testament. Yeah, I think I'll do that. And I also just want to find like a new Bible in a year plan. Maybe, I don't know, because I was like, that was really fun. But then I didn't want to restart it this year because I was like, I just finished and I want to do something different. So, yeah, okay. I'm definitely going to have to.
Something that also helped me was one of my friends I met at camp, and she didn't read a chapter, like she didn't read a whole book of the Bible through. She like skipped. And she's like, this helps me like stay kind of like intrigued by it, because it's like when you just try to finish, like, especially old, like you don't want to finish the whole like Deuteronomy, like it gets boring. But when you skip through and go here and there, it's just like a refresher. And then there's also, I go to commentary. I use like a commentary site online that just helps points out stuff I didn't technically see to begin with, because it's like I have a tendency to read through it. And I'm like, okay, what do you want me to get from this God? Like, they were bad kings. Like, I'm going through First Kings right now. I was like, okay, they're bad kings. Don't sin.
Yeah.
What else? But it kind of breaks it down, and you get to know the history, and then it makes more sense. So that also really helps too, to kind of get a spark back into reading.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Okay, what is your favorite story or testimony of how God has worked in someone's life, and how has it inspired you?
So, when this question, I was reading over because that was so great, and she provides the questions beforehand. It's kind of like nothing specifically just like pops out in my head. I've seen so many little things about how like God's been faithful to me this past year. Like when I just stop and look around. When like looking back, one thing that like really like kind of like flashes in my mind was one of my friends went through a breakup this past year, and when she was going through it, she came to me because we were really close, and she was just going through it, and it was not a great relationship. There was a lot of sin in it, but she decided to listen to what God was saying, like get out of the relationship, and it just kind of grew from there. And seeing her go through it, like the day she came to me, it so much reminded me of a past relationship I was in, and she reminded me of myself, the darkness that was surrounded by it, and I just wanted to help her. And her going through this, because she was the one breaking up, it showed me the other side of the relationship I went through. So her going through this kind of opened up my heart to some hurt I had. And so it was really cool. And then like seeing her after, she's just doing really great, really amazing. And the guy's doing well too. But it was just like, it's really hard to see like one of your friends go through that. And especially when it was, you never know what's happening on the inside of a relationship. But just like seeing her after, just happier, and like seeing how God's been providing for her every day in her life, and how it's just made her days better. Just been really great.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love like the aftermath, like of how God has been working, because okay, I briefly mentioned this in another episode as well, but which I might tell you after more. But some God, like right after I graduated, he showed me something that I've been praying about, and like I finally had one of the answers that I've been asking him about for years, and it was just, it helped me get over this guy and stop worrying so much about being in a relationship. So like just seeing how God works,
and
there's like so great.
No specific timeline too, because it's like mine's been a few years, and even though like I'm over like that relationship, it just like there was still like a bunch of hurt from it that I just have held on to, just because it was just like a lot had happened. But just God putting the people in our life and putting the people around you to support you, even while you're supporting them, like they're also pouring into you, which is so great too. It just chills.
Okay, how do you think Christians can navigate the tension between being in the world but not of the world?
So I think there's a very fine, I keep saying fine line, but where it's just like you have to know the world to reach the world. And so it's like if you don't know what's happening in this earth, like what's happening, like especially our age, like young adults, because you graduated now, like like people like at college, they party, they drink, they go out, they do all this stuff. And so it's not like you have to know it so you can be like, okay, like I see it, I understand, and be welcoming and accepting, not like approving what they do, but just letting them know you're there for them through it all. Just because like I had that a lot, especially, I'm not saying sororities and fraternities are bad. I feel like there's a great place, But a huge problem this past year was a lot of them didn't want to come to the ministry on campus because they felt like they were being judged. Because there's been a time where it was like, they come, but they're like, we know these people don't approve of what we do. And even if we don't approve, that doesn't mean we don't still show them love. Knowing it, but not accepting it, and like still being there and supporting them no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really...
Yeah. I was talking yesterday, because I recorded a podcast yesterday also when we answered this question, and being kind to everyone, and just being aware of what's going on in the world, but also faithful, and not be a partier and not do what all the people are doing that looks cool and it isn't right and stuff like that. So yeah, that's really good.
It's like, you have to know it, but you're also called to be set apart from the world.
Mm-hmm.
And another story kind of was like, Jesus sat with sinners even though he didn't sin.
True.
And so it's just not like, because I feel like sometimes Christians can be like, oh, I can't hang out with you because you all do all this stuff. But that's not how it works. It's like, when we're saved and we're changed, like our heart is changed, that means we want to go see other people change. So it's not like block them off, because if you're just hanging out with Christians all day, then who's going to reach the ones that are not?
Yeah, so sometimes you gotta branch out, and you gotta talk to people who might not agree with you, and also be kind while you do it.
Yeah,
that's really good. Okay, what is your perspective on the role of prayer and healing, and have you ever experienced miraculous healing in your own life or witnessed one in someone else's?
So prayer is super important in all aspects. Healing, just like every day, bringing like your request to God, because like he tells us to pray without ceasing. But prayer and healing, God, if you're praying to God to just heal you, and like you expect him to heal, like let's say if you have a physical illness and it's like, God, like heal me, like he doesn't promise us that we're just gonna be healed. Because I think that's sometimes a misinterpretation. Like people are like, I met people who are like, yeah, just pray and you'll be better. And it's like, well, God doesn't tell us we're gonna have a life without pain. But I feel like God can emotionally heal. He can physically, like kind of spiritually, like where we might still go through pain and suffering, but that doesn't mean we're not going to be satisfied in him. And so it's kind of, when I was doing this, I was like, I don't know, technically, like, is she meaning like physical, or how you just overall?
However you answer it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just that's good. Yeah, because he does heal us in different ways. And yeah, he does not say that he's just going to give us whatever we want.
Yeah.
And I like that about God, because if we got whatever we wanted right away, then we wouldn't be learning anything.
Yeah.
And so his way of doing things and healing us over time, or maybe in a day, is really cool.
And like that pain is also there to draw us near to him, because if we don't go through anything, then it's like, okay, then like I can just do life on my own then, God. But it's like when we do have that pain, we recognize like we are sinful, like pain is like sin correlates with pain, if that makes sense in my mind. That's what in my mind it makes sense. And so it's like when we have that, like we recognize the sinfulness of the world and like our need of that savior.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you just finished your freshman year of college, so do you have any advice for anyone going to college?
Yes. It was really funny. It was senior Sunday at my church in Monroe, because I go to ULM, and they were like, what advice would you give to your freshman self? So I was like, looking back over this year, I thought to myself, I was like, don't be afraid to sit at the caf alone. And let me explain this, because not everybody knows what the caf is. So the caf is like our cafeteria on campus where you just go get your meals. And I, a lot of times, went and got my meal, but you could get a to-go box. So I was like, okay, like I don't really know anybody. I'm just going to get a to-go box and go sit in my room, which was okay some days. But then it started to like kind of feel myself isolated. So I was like, tell myself, I was like, okay, go and sit by yourself in there. Like, it's not that big of a deal. No one pays attention to you. Like, we just like a small little person on this world. Like, everyone has their own life. And so it kind of helped. It was like, I'd go in, I'd eat by myself, I'd people watch. It made my day so much better. or just like there'd be people in there I didn't know was in there, and I'd just sit with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, don't be afraid to like go put yourself out there, because you don't know like the results of it. And that kind of like branches into like more of college, where it's just like you want to get involved, you want to go do things. Like I jumped straight in. I got involved in ministries on campus because I had heard a lot about it, and just made so many friends through it, so many connections already. And it was like, I just finished my freshman year. Like, yeah, it was crazy to me to think, like, looking over, like, I'm so thankful for everything and everyone. But it was just like a huge thing. It was like, I feel a lot of times people will isolate themselves, especially like if you're moving away from home, you don't know anybody. It can be scary. And some people are introverted. I'm more extroverted. Depends on the situation, but it's just like they don't want to put themselves. But it's definitely worth it. Even like one little, like, no one's going to be like, no, I'm not going to be mean. Like, no one's like that. Like, there's always like those freshman people come in and you're like, the shy and nervous. So it's just like, you're all in the same boat. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. So today's quote is, don't tell your people your plans, show them your results. So what are your thoughts? What does this quote mean to you?
So I am a planner, but I'm also not a planner, if that makes sense. Like, I do like to plan stuff, but like life plans, I couldn't tell you. Like, I want to graduate college, I want to get married, like all the basic stuff, but it's just like, I don't have a certain place I want to go. I'm living day by day. I'm just trying to make it. But when I was like reading this quote, I was kind of like, we don't know the plan. Something that was like laid on my heart. We talked a lot about my Bible study that I did this past semester. Was God has this huge plan for our life, but we only know steps of it, and He asks us to be obedient in the steps, which is so good. Which is also kind of like, okay, God, like, I want to know, like, I want to know what's happening, but it's just like He just wants us to be faithful in the moment. So it's like when I was seeing this, it's kind of like we don't even know the plans either, but they can just see the results of us being faithful to God and like the fruit that comes from that. And so it's just kind of like, even if like you don't show people your plans, I don't even like, even if it's no plans, but like you being obedient in the steps God has called you and seeing what can happen from there can be a testimony to other people.
Yes. And also when I look at the quote, I think of like making sure you put in the work, because a lot of people, like, maybe they want to graduate high school, but then they cheat on everything they do. And so it's like, if you have something that you want to accomplish in life, work towards it also.
Yeah.
And show people that you can get to the point where you want to get. And also, yeah, you're right about, we don't know everything about our lives, and we just go step by step. So yeah, taking it step by step, working towards the results.
I also agree with, like, you do have to put work in. Like,
yeah,
you can't expect to, some people do this where they can just walk in a test and make an A.
Yeah.
The Lord has blessed them with smarts, but that's not for everybody. So it's like, in my opinion, like, you can't just walk in a test, not look at anything, and do amazing. It doesn't work like that. You have to put in work. And I feel like that's in every aspect.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to get to some fun questions. So I know you said you don't have one, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What's your favorite podcast? Like throughout the years? Like,
I really don't listen to any podcasts. Like, I listen to yours every once in a while, which that's on me. I do not listen that often as I should. I've listened to the Sadie Robertson's Whoa, That's Good.
Oh, yeah.
Which there's been really good things, and there's been like stuff that's stuck with me till now, but nothing really recently. I haven't think I've listened to a podcast minus yours. I've listened to yours a few times in like a year or two. I'm just not a podcast girly. I wish I was, but I'm not.
No, I go between music, audiobooks, and podcasts, and I just have these phases. So right now I'm music. It's always music usually.
Yeah, mine's been music recently. Well, because when I study, I listen to music. Because I'm too talkative. I want to like sit and talk. Never study with me. That's a tip. If you need to study, probably don't study with me. It's a problem. One day, I'm hoping I will get into podcasts, but
yeah,
we'll see. I'll let you know when I do.
Okay. Do you have a favorite worship song?
Just As Good by, I think, Ellie. something.
Ellie Holcomb?
Yeah, because I was telling you about it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I think you did tell me about it.
It has been a song that, like, we sang at our worship nights in college, and when I just sit there and, like, listen to it, it's just like, you're just as good as when I met you. So it was, like, a good reminder, like, no matter where I was at in Monroe or Bossier, that he was still there for me. And, like, when I met him when I was in 5th grade or now, like, he's still the same God. So.
Oh, wait, that's a good reminder. Yeah. I also love your worship playlist. I only listened to it once, but it's got some good songs in it.
Yeah. Some of them, like, I've started doing this thing where I'll make kind of a worship playlist for the season I'm in, because the one I sent you was a lot I just had over the years, where I kind of, like, some songs I don't like as much as I used to, or just, like, I can't get into, like, the worship playlist anymore in that. So I made, like, a spring one, and then I'm making probably a summer one.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know.
I need to get my summer playlist made, too.
I know, it's finally here, summer. So excited.
Although we did have to sit outside at Nukes, and it wasn't very fun.
No, it was not fun. And I'm going to sue if I didn't get tan, because I sat out there for a reason.
What, do you have a way that college is better or worse than high school? Or you could say both, or one or the other?
For better, I absolutely loved college. There was days that was not as great, just because it was like, okay, this is boring, I'm just doing schoolwork. But, like, now I'm sad that I'm not there in the summer. I'm like, kind of want to be back. But I love that I could make my own schedule, because I'm to have control, which is bad because God needs control of my life. But it's like, I like where I could be like, okay, this day I could do this, and that day I could do that. So that was really good. And then it was like, I didn't have class, like, this next semester on Wednesdays, I don't have class till 3:30.
Wow.
What am I going to do with my life in the morning? I'm like, which is good and bad. I didn't have class till, like, 12:30. I was like, I'd wake up, I'd read my Bible, and I was like, okay, I still have, like, 2 hours. What do I do till class? That's the only problem with the late classes. But other than that, I love making my schedule. It's great. Anything, I don't know if college is worse. Probably the money. It's not free. That's the only, like, bad part about it, but it's honestly, like, that's just life. I can't do nothing about it.
Yeah. Oh, you kind of said you don't know what to do, but how do you like to spend your free time?
Now that I don't have to study or, like, have as many responsibilities, I read. I like to read. Don't ask me any books I read, because I just kind of read. I'm like, okay, I'm done with the book, on to the next. And then it's just, like, a place to, like, escape from, like, my day. And I also love to bake. I make pies. I made one.
Oh, yeah.
So good. I missed it because I didn't have a kitchen, so I couldn't make anything. So it was sad. And I finally, like, was baking the other night. I was like, this is so nice. Like, I was so happy. It was amazing. So that's usually how I spend my time. Maybe watching a show. Don't ask me about any movies. Don't know them.
Yeah, totally. I love all the things you make look so cute on your Instagram. And, yeah, reading. Okay, do you have a favorite Bible verse?
Yes. It's Hebrews 13:8. I'm pretty sure this is what it says.
Okay.
I could be totally wrong, but it says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
That's a good Bible verse.
It kind of goes with just as good, where it's just like,
yeah,
just as good whenever. And so it's just been, I feel like in my life, I have a lot of ups and down seasons where it's like, sometimes I feel super on fire for God, and sometimes I don't. And so it's like, when I don't, I remind myself of that first, because it's like, he's still the same God in that time too.
Yeah. And he's always there for us, and I love that about him also. Okay, do you have a favorite college class so far?
A favorite college class? It's kind of between two. Because it was just my freshman year, I took a lot of basic classes, and then they had me down. I'm a math education major, but they had me down as a math major. So I had to, like, take a computer programming class, and I walked into that class, and I was like, what in the world am I doing here? I was like one of the only girls. I was like, I'm just a girl. I don't know what I'm doing. But I honestly loved programming. I never switched to the major because it annoyed me. So that was one. But I also really liked, it was like applied linear algebra, because I'm a math major. I enjoyed the math of it, even though my teacher kind of annoyed me with how she graded stuff. She was a great teacher, really got the point across, like she made sure you understood it, but she was also just so hard at grading, like made sure no one got hundreds. But I really enjoyed the math, even though it stressed me out. It was great. I couldn't really decide between the two.
Okay, yeah, I love that you're so good at math because that's like my least favorite.
Everybody, when you go in your freshman year, everyone's like, what's your name? Like, what's your major? Couldn't remember anybody. They're like, I would say, like, oh, like, mine's like math education. They're like, math? Are you crazy? Are you okay? And I was like, I know, guys. I know. I can't. I don't know. I feel like that's just definitely where I've been called to be. Because I definitely questioned it. My first 2 weeks, I'm in this, like, Calc 2 class. It's all upperclassmen. I don't know what in the world I'm doing. It's not a great teacher. Everyone was like, I'm so sorry you started off with this teacher. And I was like, okay, God, like, is this where you want me to be? Like, I felt like I was called a few years back. And it was so crazy because I went and tried out this church because I was looking for a new church. And they talked about math teaching on the Sunday service. I was like, okay, I might just stick it out, God. I think you're telling me.
No, that's awesome. That's so awesome. Okay, well, those are all of the questions. So thank you for talking with me today.
Yes, anytime. I love it.
Okay, I'll link her Instagram below if you want to go check out her account. And yeah, it was good talking to you.
Yes, thank you for having me back.
Yes, of course. And I'll also link the past episodes. So everybody should go check out our longest episode if you're in the mood.
It's like an hour long, so get ready.
Yeah, okay. Well, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Quoted Podcast. Come back next Thursday for more.